Welcome to Stayf Draws. I'm Stayf van der Groot, a Dutch illustrator and animator, but you can call me Stayf. In this tutorial I'm going to explain how I animate a bumblebee by using smartbones in Anime Studio. In a previous video I already showed you how I animated the bumblebee by just using shapes, and if you click on the video you can go straight to that tutorial, or I leave a link in the description box down below. The only difference is that with smartbones you have more control over your character. So let's get started. So we're now going to start and animate this bumblebee by using smartbones. And the first thing you need to do if you want to animate with smartbones is to make a bone layer, and you do that when you go to the layers panel and when you're on frame 0 on the timeline, so you need to be on frame 0, then you can select a bone layer, and I'm just going to name it bumblebee. And next thing you need to do is select all your layers and drag it on bumblebee. And now you see all the red dots, so they're all connected to the bumblebee bone layer. Next thing you need to do is create a mask layer, and we need the mask for the wings, because when the bumblebee goes downwards the wings will fall behind the shape of the body. So what we need to do is create a vector layer and put it on bottom of the group layer of the bones. I'm just going to call it mask, and create a shape. And what I really like to do is always select a red so that you know that it is a mask. Just draw a rectangular, and then with the add point you can add points to make your curve. So because the mask will fall around the shape of the round body, what I'm going to do is make a reveal mask, so that everything that is within the mask will show up. And I'm just going to call it a mask so that you know that this is the mask layer. And the next thing you need to do is select your group, and this is the bone group in which all your layers are. Double click on it, go to masking and select hide all. And what's going to happen now is all your layers are going to be affected by it, and that's not what you want. I only want the wings to be affected by the mask. First thing what I'm going to do is double click on the mask, and I don't want to see the mask, so select add to mask but keep invincible. That way you don't see your mask, but it still really works. And then you need to select all your layers and tap on, just double click on your layer and then go to masking and set it to don't mask this layer. And you need to do that for all your layers you don't want to be affected by the mask. Now all the circles are gone except for the wings. You can see a little black and white circle on the wings. Next thing we need to do is to make a bone, and you can do that when you go to the tools panel in the bone section. Click the bone with the plus on the bottom of the bone, which is called the Add Bone tool, or you can press A on your keyboard. And I'm first going to make a bone to animate the bumblebee going from left to right. So this is going to be up, and it's always good practice to name your bone. So we're going to call it horizontal, because this is going to be the horizontal movement. And then select it again, and then go to bone strength or press S on your keyboard and diminish it to 0. And you see it happen here in your select bone. You see the bone strength, and you can adjust it here by just pressing 0, and then your strength is gone. Or you can do the same thing with dragging your bone strength to the left, and then it's 0 as well. Next thing we're going to do is select the bone with the select tool. Then you have many options. So we're going to bone constraints, select angle constraints, and I want to have the constraints of the bone set to 90%. So you have a nice 90% curve on each side. Next thing we're going to do is select the action panel, and you can find the action panel at when you press Windows. There you have actions, or you can press Command K. Now we're in the main line, and in order to make a smart bone, we need to go into another timeline, and we're going to make an action, and we call that horizontal, the same name as the bone. Press OK, and now the timeline is blue, and you can see that it's selected here with a red arrow, and now we're in the smart bone, the timeline of the smart bone. What we can do now is grab your transform bone and drag it to the left, because we're first going to animate the bumblebee flying to the left. And now we can animate the shapes like we did in the previous video I did about animating the bumblebee. So we're going to start out with the white, and I'm going to drag it to the right, and I'm just going to squeeze it a little bit because you're not seeing the front of the circle. So when it's in perspective, it becomes a little bit more of an oval. Select the black part, and what I usually do is press Shift and then drag it so it will stay in the same horizontal position. And we're going to squeeze this a little bit as well, and select the yellow, and we're going to squeeze that a little bit, and the black layer we can drag to the left, and the yellow layer we're going to drag that to the left as well. So you see that the bumblebee has more shape, and I'm just going to squeeze it a little bit more. Then we're going to select the head and drag it to the left, and now we're going to do the legs, and the legs need to go to the right. These are the front legs, and I'm just going to rotate them a little bit, and this leg needs to be a little bit bigger because it's now closer to you than the right leg. I'm just going to select it a little bit and then drag it up to here. Select this leg and squeeze it a little, or make it a little bit smaller. So in this way you get the effect of the 3D position of your shapes. And I'm going to animate the wings as well, and I'm going to use the transform layer tool, which you can find by pressing M. And I'm going to drag it to the left, and I'm going to rotate it a little. Also need to check the mask, that the mask will be masking everything you want. Now I'm just selecting one point. I don't want that. I want the entire shape, and then move it to the left as well, and just drag the points to see if all wings are still shown. You also have to animate the second pair of feet. I press Command A, and this is aligned to this side of this black side of the bumblebee. I'm going to select this one again, and this one falls a little bit behind, and we're going to scale it down a little bit because it's further away. Then we're going to animate the front feet, and I just press Command A, select all, and drag it to the left because that's where the legs will be. Maybe rotate it a little bit. Now you can check your animation. When you double click on mainline, you're in the mainline again, and then you can check when you select the bone layer if everything looks alright. And I'm going to animate it with the manipulate bone tool, or just press Z on your keyboard. Now you can see that something isn't still right. Still need to animate the second pair of feet, I think. Double click on horizontal again, then you're on frame 1. Let me see, it's these, yeah. So I'm going to select these legs, and I forgot to animate those because they need to be dragged to the right, and maybe tilt a little. And these legs are a little bit bigger than the right legs. And check it again in the main line. Go to your bone layer and then check it again. Well, this looks pretty good. And the next thing we're going to do is animate the bumblebee to the right. So what you need to do is go to the action panel, create a new action and call it horizontal space 2. Now you're in the timeline or the bumblebee going to the right, and we're going to drag the bone to the right so you know that it's in the same shape. And we need to animate exactly the same as we did with the bee going to the left. So I'm going to time lapse this and I'll be back to you with the next step. Now I've animated both the sides of the bumblebee flying horizontally, going from left to right. And we can check that in the main timeline and just animate it a little bit. And going to the right. Let me see if it works. Just going to check this in the main timeline. That really works. Next thing we're going to do is animate the bumblebee going up and going down. So I need to create a new bone for that. So we're going to the bone layer. Always need to make your bones on frame layer 0. Then go to the add bone or press A on your keyboard, and we're going to draw a bone like this. Then select your bone again. Bone strength needs to be on 0. Select your bone, bone constraints, angle constraints. I'll put that on 90 as well. And name your bone. And we're going to call this bone up, down. Now you can go to your action panel and create a new smart bone. And create a new action. We're going to call this up, down. Press OK, and now you're in the layer of your up, down. And we're going to select the bone, and we're first going to animate the bumblebee going up. So we're first going to start out with the white circle, and we're going to drag that down. And this is a nice indication of how far you can go with your object. And I'm going to squeeze it a little bit because you're not seeing the front of the bum again. The black part, I'm going to squeeze that a little bit as well. The yellow part. The black part, we're just going to extend that a little bit so the bee becomes a little bit bigger. And the yellow part, we're going to make it a little bit bigger and squeeze it a little. The head is going to be up. The wings, and we need to select M on your keyboard or transform layer and draw them up here. Need to check the mask, but mask is okay. Next thing we're going to do is animate the legs, and let me start out with the front legs of the bumblebee, and they're going to be up here because you're not really going to see it, but when you animate it you will see it. These are the behind legs. Select all, drag them down because they're aligned to this. Feet behind, I'm going to select it all, and these are going to be a little bit more up, a little bit more to the side. So I'm going to select the right leg and drag it a little bit up here, and I'm going to drag this a little bit more to the right. Now I'm going to check if this smart bound works. So I double click on main line. Now I'm in the main line, and now you can check the second smart bone by going up. It looks pretty good. Maybe this isn't. Well, this doesn't really look right, so we're going to adjust that white spot because it's a little bit too far out. It doesn't need to be squashed that much, I think. Check it again. Well, it looks pretty good. And the next thing we're going to do is select a new action, and that's up, down, space 2. And now we're in the smart bound layer. You can see that on the blue timeline. And now we're going to reverse everything. So the white spot needs to go up. Squeeze it a little. Squeeze this a little as well. White part a little bit, because otherwise it will look fake. Yellow needs to go up. Not going to squeeze that. Black goes up as well, and the yellow part we're just going to drag a little bit down, so you have a fuller body, and I'm just going to squeeze it a little. Head needs to go down. The wings are going to fall totally behind the body, because you're not going to see it because the body is in front of it. So we're going to drag the wings down, and they're probably around here. Let me see if the mask is right. Looks okay. Then we're going to animate the front feet, and they're going down. Then the behind feet, and they were aligned to this circle. They're going to be a little bit more up. And I'm going to make them bigger, because they're now closer to you. And I'm just going to rotate it a little. You just need to go it's just, checking between the bone layer you're working in and the main timeline, and the overall feeling needs to be right. Because you're really, faking CGI in a 2D software program. And the back legs need to go way up, because they're aligned to the bum. and they need to be a little bit bigger. Just going to check it, double click on mainline, and then you can check your bones. Select the bone layer and then see if up. I forgot to do something essential, and I needed to drag down this bone because otherwise it won't work. So we're now going to check if everything works okay. Select the bone layer and check if it goes down and up. Just going to select some points here to see if it, really works. First going up to the right, then going down to the left. Just going to render it and see if it works. Export animation. And it really animates very fast because you have drawn everything with the vectors. So now I have set up the bumblebee and I just imported a background, and I'm going to animate the bumblebee flying into the background, and the bumblebee is going to fly from flower to flower. And I'm using the smart bones to let the bumblebee fly up and down and from left to right. I'm also using the transform layer to make the bumblebee smaller. So I'm just going to time-lapse this, and at the end I will show you the final rendering. So in this way you can animate a bumblebee by using smart bones in Anime Studio. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. In that way you won't miss a single video. If you want to see more tutorials on working in Anime Studio, there's a great site for it. It's called animestudiotutor.com. I'll leave a link in the description box down below. Animating is fun and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles! So when you press Command R, you get a preview of your final rendering. Now you can see that this is a little bit more transparent, and underneath this layer I had another layer, and there I